Okay, we're back for another video and another day, and another thing has broken. This time it's my laser cutter. So I have a fairly decent sized laser cutter, and you can probably see the problem here that I picked up in Hardways some years ago. A bloke thought it was a sandblaster, and it was in a house that had been acquired compulsory for unpaid rates, and he'd bought it cheap and was just emptying everything out at Hardways. So I got a laser cutter. In any case, on that laser cutter, on the y-axis, there is a cable chain that runs along the top of the belt here, and it has an autofocus pin. So when it comes down, this pin touches, breaks a connection, and it knows that it's in the focal range. This needs a bit of work as well. Now, that is connected back to the main end by a cable chain that this cable runs in, and it's always doing this all day, every day, or if you're doing a really fast pass, it's running backwards and forwards like that. And so naturally, we end up with cable breaks like this. So what happens if this suffers a cable break is this is a normally closed switch, or rather a normally open switch. So it will keep on going, keep on going, keep on going until it drives this pin into the bed and then strips all the belts and destroys the machine. So I really reckon a normally closed switch would have been a better choice than a normally open one for this, but it is what it is. So I need to come up with a way to adapt these connectors, or perhaps just wire all the way through from this all the way back to that. It makes this nice and easily replaceable, but it does sort of present a problem with all these connectors and stuff. Okay, so I've been out and I found some 25 gauge speaker wire, some figure 8 stuff. Probably the most flexible stuff I've got. The conductors in this are not huge. I don't know how long this will last. I have had problems with this stuff breaking, but I guess now that I'm aware of the problem, I need to keep on top of it and be aware of it. So I might leave a small section of tail here and solder them directly on instead of repinning these connectors, because even though I have the right tools, that is a nightmare. Okay, so we want our soldering station on to warm up. And we're going to probably trim around about here. That's before the cable chain gets to it. And with the switch contact, polarity is not too much of an issue. This goes into the flat part of the cable chain that never moves. We're going to twist these a little bit. I have had this laser cutter quite a while now. It'll be getting almost to a decade, I think. But yeah, I did ask, and the bloke was pretty well not unhappy to see it go. Although he did think it was a sandblaster, despite the massive laser radiation energy warning sign on the side. But he wasn't interested in discussing that either, so yeah, it happens. Now, some of the issues I do have with this cable is the plastic insulation on it is not the greatest. So you're going to very gently squeeze around here and then pull off the flush cutters here. And not too much force, or you take the conductors with it. So I'll try and just squeeze just a little more firmly here, but it is very finicky stuff to strip. There we go, we got it. So and it is tinned copper, so I've got to do that 3 more times. Right, so I've taken the liberty of adding some heat shrink tubing on here, and I'm committing a cardinal sin of twisting them together like this. The primary reason for that being is that an inline splice is just very difficult with this size wire, and so the heat shrink will deal with the rest of it for us, and I've got limited sizes of heat shrink available to me at the moment. So we are, as usual, working with what we have, which does tend to trigger people, I find. Mr. Stoner Torch. I've replaced Mr. Stoner Torch blue and green. I don't know where they've gone, but I've got Stoner Torch Ned Kelly. Just what's at the back and his tad on the shelf. Alright, heat shrink. That's one end done. Let's do the other. Alright, so we have our 2 ends joined. Tricky bit's going to be getting this to go back through the cable chain. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess. So the other thing I need to check out is the continuity still working in this? And can I disassemble this at all? It'd be nice to. Definitely needs a bit of cleaning, but I guess they make these as a sealed unit. this pin has been bent before as it's been traversing sideways and pushed into things, and maybe you can see the wobble in the pin from here. But I think I did get some contact cleaner into it last time and got it working well. But we're going to put a meter on that. Okay, we're going to plug into my continuity testing side, give us 12 volts from the house battery there, and we probably want to shut down our, where are we? Shut down our soldering iron, we don't need that now. Let's put 2 needle pins in here. That's not going to work, we're going to need some blue tack, which is stuff you can ask me about later. Put that down here. Now these 2 pins, when we touch them, should beep, and that beeping is constant. Now, in their infinite wisdom, they made this a normally open switch. So it means when the wire breaks, the machine's got no way of knowing that it's broken. If it was me, I would have made this normally closed. But it should. Just when you very much touch it, it should do that. Probably test this cable first for continuity, and then plug it all back into the machine. So let's see here. We should have one side here, should correlate to the other. If I can find the back of the pin. That's our ground wire, and it's not shorting between them. Let's go our hot wire. Should be here and not shorting between them either. Okay, polarity really doesn't matter with a contact closure, but you just make it that way anyway, just in case, because you never know. Okay, we're back in the machine. If you hear some weird chattering sounds, it's because it's night time and the flying foxes are in the fruit trees nearby. So now, this is our cable chain here. We need to connect from this connector here, and then it goes all the way along to this little rogue black connector down here. This whole unit moves that way, but generally, when we're doing most of the traverses, it runs across this way very quickly. We can push it up here and get the cable chain mostly straight, and that might help us. So our small connector needs to go in alongside this pipe in the cable chain. So we're going to try and train this to be as straight as we can, but sometimes you just can't train things to be straight. I can tell you a bit about that actually, but anyway, push this through, see how far up the cable chain we can get it, and then we start getting the needle nose pliers involved. Okay, now we might be able to pull it over this way. The problem we've got is that is the back of the cable chain that you can't really get access to. So I might need to manipulate it up with a pair of needle nose pliers now. Okay, couldn't find needle nose pliers out here, they're all inside. I have noticed I've lost my 1.5mm Allen key. I'm going to try and use one of these to poke it past the cable chain notches as I push from the other end, and it might guide it through. We'll find out. So this could take a little while, so I might do this off camera and we'll come back when I get it through. So I did end up unbolting the cable chain at the top, and I was so close. I'm like 2 sections from the end here. Oh, so close, but Allen key to the rescue. I've been pretty much able to manipulate that forward just a little bit at a time, and it's coming out the end. Can we get you in there? That was possibly the hardest part of this whole job, was getting this through here. Haha, I love to see that. Okay, let's bolt that back down. Okay, now that cable chain's back on, I did give myself a bit of extra cable to work with here, but see how we go. This bit's all clipped down. As usual, my hands get in the way. Which way round's our key? That way, I think. Can we do this? It does, it just clips in. Okay, we can tuck that in that way. If we check the full traverse of this, all the way to the other extent, that bit of cable is not going to move. So we can probably tuck that down below the rail a bit. I'm a little bit husky today. Alright, so that should be okay. Now, up this end here, one side goes to one side, so we might just wrap that around, because it's a little bit better to be too long than too short. So I guess you go in there, and I think these are both the same. So my autofocus pin let's move over the other side here. Let's take our whole panel and move over this way. The autofocus pin drops in here, and should, in theory, drop in. There we go. Now, I think that's right. When I had it, it was moved just a little bit up, and I think that might have just been some slip from when I tried to force it up. So I think that's designed to be the calibration point. I will recalibrate anyway. Plug this one in here. Okay, that should be good. We will probably want to zip that up, keep it off that roller. Let's see if I can find a small zip tie. So only zip tie I could find out here is like massive. This is not going to do the job. So I found a little bit of gaffer tape, which I had a plumber slash builder here one day that called it tear off tape. I guess that's what you mean. I've known it as cloth tape. This should at least just keep that wire up off there. I can replace that with a proper zip tie later. Now we want to check for collisions. This wire here is going to ever so slightly rub on that wire below, which at the speeds that this does things, that can be a problem. So more tape. Actually, before we do more tape, there is this little guard that's meant to go over here. What we might be able to do is tuck that cable under that guard. I think that's a better solution. We need to get one of the screws to start with. So that should clear any collisions with the cable up the back here. Should be pretty good. Alright, I like that. Okay, let's turn it on and see if it autofocuses. Okay, I think I've got power on that side. Should be able to turn power on here somewhere. I'll let it fire up. Okay. Now this should lower the bed for a little bit. The next thing I've got to fix is this limit switch. The wires have come off it. But I think that limit switch, I was driving all the way up and not stopping. And I think that was a symptom of this problem gradually escalating over time. Right, it's going to bring the bed down a fair bit. Should test its limits. Test that side. Now we'll go down to this corner. Yep. And we should return back to that end. Okay. So now we should be able to go to function, and actually if we go back, function recall should bring it back to the corner. Okay, if we go back here for a minute, go recall back to the corner, that's okay. So now we want to bring it all the way over into the middle. You can actually get this to free up, and so you can move it around with your hands. I just want to make sure that everything's working functionally, so I'm going to do it with a D-pad over here. We're going to bring somewhere over into the middle here. Now here's where the tricky bit gets. I've got to change camera angles. Okay, from here what I'm going to do is do an autofocus, but I'm going to touch the pin before the bed gets here, because I don't want it driving into the bed if it doesn't work. So let's hit autofocus. That looks like it's going to work. So let's try again. Let's let it do an autofocus and let it actually touch the bed. Wind it all the way up. Beautiful, we are fixed. Okay, let's retry that. That's awesome. I'll get you a different camera angle. Alright, we're going to go for a ride down here for a little bit. Okay, we're going to go back and we're going to hit the autofocus button, and this should touch the bed and autofocus. Beautiful, I'm really happy about that. Now for those interested in the actual machine, this is a laserpro. It's hard to get hold of these guys now. They've changed names a bunch of times, but this is a Mercury model. I have to run an old Windows XP machine because I can't get it to work with anything else. I've got it working over USB, but it is a weird protocol. I think there is an RS-232 interface in it. That would be nice. Fairly soon that hardware is going to get cloned to that machine there, which has previously run later hardware, but I'm going to use a Kronos True Image because I've had luck getting XP running on modern hardware with it. So and hopefully I've got a NVIDIA Quadro card here that will work, because the MSI card in there's got problems. There's a never-ending list of stuff to fix, but this is just one of them that is finally fixed. I'm really happy about that. That means I can go back to my next project, which will be laser cutting some stuff. I've been laser cutting all sorts of different things out of MDF timber, and then I heat metal up and pour straight into it after I coat it with a bit of graphite powder like this stuff. Originally I started off doing white metal, which is recycled bearing metal from coal briquette presses, which have all now closed. They've bulldozed half of that. I moved up to doing recycled brass. This is some of my late brother's brass collection that were melted down. That was going to be a play button for Tickerman Mick, but I didn't melt enough brass down. And I'm moving up to silver as well. I've got some silver bullion here. My financial manager is not that interested in gold jewelry, so I really haven't done much of that. But silver is easy to get hold of, and she appreciates it. So that's where we're going. So that's what all this is all about. And at some point, we've got to do something about this. I'm thinking about rebuilding all the desks and everything up here, and rearranging this whole side of the shed, and getting rid of a lot of this junk. So anyway, I hope it was an interesting one for you. I won't lag on too much. We'll continue on, and I hope you see me in another video. Maybe subscribe, I guess. Anyway, see you later.